My God, I need a haircut. Yes, and I need a shave too, but I've been very busy. They must have been neglecting that, especially with everything going on at the house. Hey guys, J77. I'm doing another flashback, and this is going to continue on with the holiday trend, and I'm not going to do too much of films that's related to the holiday films, or at least films I saw during the holidays. And the film I saw during the holiday season was a film called All Dogs Go to Heaven. A film, the first real film that I've seen from Don Bluth in theaters. Now, keep in mind, I have seen other films from him that was Don Bluth related, but I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it in the video store. As a matter of fact, American Tales I've seen in the video store briefly. Then I saw it again later on in life. And The Land Before Time I saw fully in a video store. Just watching television didn't bother me. But this was the first film I saw that was directed by Don Bluth in theaters. A lot of people say, "Oh, you got to see this film. You got to, see it." I bought the soundtrack before I seen the movie, and the soundtrack I actually enjoy. I love the American Tale soundtrack. I really do enjoy this soundtrack. As for the movie, it had to grow on me, and that was because a lot of people have told me information about this film, but when I saw this film, I actually shook my head and wondering what the hell did I just watch. This was addressed by other reviewers, especially from that guy with the glasses.com. They actually they have Mars Girl. She brought it up in her Don Bluth special. She did a whole entire segment of Don Bluth's movies. Great job by her. You should check her out. She's done a terrific job, and she brought up some stuff that I, for a long time, had a beef with. Because a lot of people kept saying this, and that, and she really nailed everything that I had a beef with right on the head. And as for me, I'm just going to explain some briefly about the film as possible, as well as getting to some of the good and bad. Needless to say, I will say this: this film, after seeing it a couple more times and owning it on video, I learned to respect it more. But I gotta tell you, there was a lot of problems I had with this film. Especially now when I look back at this film again, those problems still exist. One of the main things about this film is the content. Let me first explain about the movie. This movie involves a dog named Charlie, which is played by Burt Reynolds, and his companion Itchy, which is played by the late Don DeLuise. And in this movie, in the scene at the very beginning, they're breaking out of jail, or in this case, the dog pound. And in this scene, you get a very dark scene of him being shot at. They're being shot all the way. They escape, but but you can still hear the gunshot firing. Apparently, they make it back to Charlie's old partner, Carface. Which we're finding out that Carface was surprised to see him in the club which they own. They own a casino club, and eventually they're not very happy. Carface's not very happy to see him, especially when they put him on death row. So they made a plan to kill him, which they did. They killed him very quickly in this film. He got tossed into the river and eventually drowned. He goes to heaven, and apparently in heaven all dogs goes there. Every dog, even if you did bad, they go there. And apparently at first he's not realizing what's really happened until this singing guardian dog, whatever she was, pretty much told him that, hey, you're dead, and he just basically flips out. He wants revenge. He wants to come back, and it turns out that he's giving him a tour, and he sees his watch. His watch is like his life. It's like a life force for him, and apparently he takes this watch and rewinds it and brings him back, even though he shouldn't have done it. And in the film, it basically says point blank, "Hey, you can't come back." That was the whole thing. So now he's back. He meets up with Itchy, who is stunned to see him, but is also happy to see him as well, and he plans to get revenge. Itchy has informed them that he has a monster somewhere hidden in his casino, and they go find out that the monster is actually a little orphan girl, which is played by another actress. There's a sad story between that. For some reason it's slipping my mind, but needless to say, there's a history between that. And if anybody's asking, no, I'm not going to address this. It is a tragic story. It happened before the release of this film, and I'm not going to address it because it's been addressed by other reviewers. Like I said, Mars Girl can pretty much address this story better than I can. So if you want to get the full gist of it, you can either look it up, look up the cast at IMDb, or look at Mars Girl's review, because she has done a better job, and to me, I think she has the better knowledge to bring out what occurred. Needless to say that her performance in this film alone was fantastic, and it made that tragedy all the more devastating. That's pretty much all I can say about that issue. But in any case, he meets this girl, Anne-Marie, and he finds out that she has a gift. She can speak to animals, and because he can speak to animals, Carface is able to make bets, and pretty much they're guaranteed to make him money, guaranteed him to be an instant winner. And Carface uses this girl. I must say this again because this is where I had a major problem with people telling me about this movie. He uses this girl to make, to build his empire, to win bets, and to basically give an upper hand to Charlie. He almost basically forgets to get revenge. He stays around. He builds his new casino, and Marie is pretty much aware of this, pretty much on to him. But because she's so desperately wanting to get a family on, she's looking for a mom and dad. She's looking for someone to care for her, and she still believes that Charlie do have her best interest at heart, which in reality he don't. It wasn't to pretty much the end. I'm gonna pretty much make this pretty much brief. Charlie visits some old friends, bought pieces for them. They know who he is, little pups, and there's a history. They never really dove into this history. They had a very good musical number, very, very good musical number, but unfortunately the mood got trampled when she finds out that she had stolen a wallet from a family member that she had met doing her search for her mother and father in a racetrack of all places. So you pretty much know why they was there. And in the process, pretty much he didn't speak to her. She just ran off. And what ended up happening is probably the most scariest thing I have ever seen in an animated film. This film gave me nightmares when I saw this movie. You saw hell in this animated film. I mean, it didn't really say hell for sure, but you didn't need to have them say it out loud. The scenery and the music, when Charlie was having that dream, just scared the hell out of me. It was that scene alone that pretty much changed my feeling towards the film, because I'm not gonna lie to you, this film, I was not very happy with this film, and that was pretty much because of what people have been telling me about again. But that scene seemed to change, because now it's pretty much dawned that, hey, look, if that watch ever do stop, that's where he's going. There's no question about it. That was pretty much where he was heading down, and I gotta tell you, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That's how scary that scene was. It was a very scary, painful thing to watch. I had to literally sit through that. I remember vividly a child running out of the theater from that scene. That's how scary that scene was. He wakes up, thank God, and he finds out that Anne-Marie left. She went to the family house. I think they're called the Wallop family, and returns to Wallop, and they realize, hey, this girl is homeless. I mean, she doesn't have a family. She's living in a dog in a junkyard. And Charlie, with his skills, lure her out of that house. Little that they knew that Carface was waiting for him and shot him with a ray gun. Don't ask me how they got a ray gun, because this is taking place, I think, in the 1800s, or on a year where technology hadn't been advanced. And because his watch, and this was an eerie sound. I mean, I was screaming like, "Oh!" And he was alive, but that's because his watch was still ticking. So obviously, as long as his watch was still ticking, he can live. And we have a scene. They actually end up, outrunning Carface and them. Carface and his attempts to kill him, but they end up being in the sewer. They bump into probably one of the weirdest characters in this movie, and I think this has forever been. I think this is what Nostalgia Chick meant when they said the big lip alligator moment. At first, I didn't know what she was coming at, but after remembering that film, yeah, that was an alligator moment that had no sense. To me, it was just a way to move the story along. That's the only explanation I have. But that they had a musical score, so let's make music together, because the Charlie was. Did a big howling sound, and he actually thought that was art. That's the best way I can describe it. In that scene, we realize that Anne-Marie is getting sick. She may have pneumonia, and she may be dying. Unfortunately, Charlie is still distracted. One of the things is that Itchy gets beat up, and his whole club that he built was destroyed. And Itchy's basically giving real emotion, telling him, "Hey, look, man. We had a chance to leave town, but he wanted to stay, and he only stayed because that was his friend." Charlie snaps. He said all these harmful things about this thing, and he's saying this even though he doesn't mean it, because you can actually tell he couldn't mean it. But Anne-Marie doesn't know that. She hears it and she runs off, but she gets kidnapped by Carface. He goes out to rescue her, but only to have probably one of the most climactic and scariest fight scenes ever. Anne-Marie is so sick she can barely move, and she ends up falling in the water. Yeah, I'm briefing this as fast as possible because I'm looking at the time, and we're running on a 12-minute mark. He dives in, and by the way, he pushed the watch out of his neck. He placed it on a crate, but that watch fell into the water. Now he has a choice: save the girl or save his life. He chooses to save the girl's life. But it cost him his own. In the end, you see him visiting Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie finally is with the family after probably one of the most craziest rescues we ever had. She gets saved. Carface pretty much gets eaten off screen by that same alligator. We knew this because in the end he pops up in heaven. In the end, Charlie visits him. I think Satan decided, hey, you want to say goodbye, go and say goodbye. But the people above came back to claim him, and the reason why they claim him because he showed true love by sacrificing his life for the girl. And this was the most heart-wrenching moment because it was that goodbye, and that goodbye was very, very strong. And then we had a musical score, a Christian score, which was pretty good. I actually liked it, followed by a song that I really, really love called Love Survives. Now, that's pretty much the gist of the movie. I try to be brief as possible, but obviously I went too deep into that. I do apologize. But now I'm going to tell you my likes and dislikes and give you my final verdict. I might as well start with my dislikes. And I don't normally start with my likes, but I'm going to start with my dislike because, like I said, there was a lot of things about this film that turned me off. But that's because people kept telling me one thing and I kept seeing another. And I've seen this film multiple times. I think I've seen this film 9 times. That's how, when I first didn't like it, then I saw it again and I actually thought it was pretty good. And I said, hey, this is actually not bad. The first thing I will say about what I didn't like about this movie is this film was meant to be catered towards children. This was nowhere near a kid's film. This film, in fact, I'm going to go on argument. If this film was released right now, this would have been a PG or PG-13 movie. Because this movie had a lot of adult themes in this film. You had murder, which was in this movie. Dogs smoking. Dogs drinking. There was actually a curse word slipped in. I remember hearing that because I actually heard that in my soundtrack. You had a lot of dark, airy themes. And I'm not taking anything against Don Bluth, because if you look at Don Bluth's early work, almost every of his films from the 80s were very dark. And I'm like this. I have no problem with that. I think that's one of his best films is when it's dark and doesn't try and dumbfound children. But this film was just very adult oriented, and I felt I shouldn't have been watching this film, even with the G rating. I felt I should never have watched that film. Another thing is, Charlie, the dog Charlie, was played brilliantly by Burt Reynolds. I have no problem with Burt Reynolds' character in this film, but people kept telling me, oh, he's a guardian angel trying to help Anne Marie find a family. Absolutely not true. This was a selfish, manipulative character. I did not like this character. I did not see where he was helping her. I was very pissed at some of the stuff that she was doing. He was very manipulated. He was coaching her to do things that he should never have done. And it was I was very frustrated with his character. Yeah, he did pretty much redeem himself at the very end. But it really bothered me because everybody said, "Oh, you gotta see this film. It's a sweet, heartwarming film." I didn't felt too much heartwarming for this character until the very end. I was very ticked off, and I was very mad that I was misled by even some of the critics that said this was a guardian angel dog. I mean, no, this was nothing like that, and I was very ticked off when I saw how this film is, and that was pretty much. It gave me a very wrong impression. I thought I was misled by everybody, but many people say, "Oh no, you're misreading it." No, I read that perfectly fine. This was not a nice character. Thirdly, it took a while for me to really get into this movie. It really did. It slowed. It was nothing really truly going on in the beginning. It wasn't until after he died things started picking up, but I felt that it tapered off and on every now and then. I guess that was the point of having it. They didn't want to go too fast. They didn't want to go too slow. It speed up when it needed to speed up, and it slowed down when it didn't slow down. The animation, although it was good then, is not as holding up ground now. It's still watchable. Don't get me wrong, it still is. But the animation is a little bit dated, and that's pretty much another reason that I pretty much didn't like it. It is a dated film, pretty much, in my own opinion. Now for my likes. I love the character Anne Marie. I really was rooting for her to have a family. She really was desperate to have a family. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the music. The music was excellently done. And for a Don Bluth film, which honestly he's not known for his music. Most of his films, the one thing I hate about a Don Bluth film is that he doesn't really do good with musicals. He really don't. I mean, there's some memorable ones. Somewhere Out There is probably one of the decent ones. It was okay. Another one from the Land Before Time was pretty good. This is the only one that almost every song I actually enjoyed. It matched well with what was going on. You Can't Keep a Good Dog Down was perfect for that scene. You also have The More You Give, the more you're going to get. That was a good scene, teaching about sharing. I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was actually pretty clever. I thought it was good. And of course you had the ending song, Love Survive, which I absolutely adore. I actually love that song. I also say Burt Reynolds as a whole, even though I didn't like that animation character. I did not like him at all. But I got to give Burt Reynolds some credit. He gave Charlie life. I think he was the best that done it. I got nothing against Charlie Sheen when he did the sequel, but Burt Reynolds was the man. And the fact is, another thing is, even though I do complain about this not being a kids film, as an overall film in general, this was a pretty interesting animation. It was definitely had a balls to the walls, if you want to call it, to actually bring a lot of imagery and actually give the kind of emotion that it gave me, at least me, because like I said, it went from until Jesus. It shocked me, and anytime you shock me like that, you're doing something right. Now for my rating. When I first saw this film, I didn't know what to feel. I felt insulted. I felt angry. I felt mad. There was a lot of questions because I was told that this was a guardian angel film and it was nothing like that, and I gave it a poor rating. I think I gave it 2 stars when I first saw it. I wasn't the only one either. Because this film has I think a grading of 75 or 80%, but it was a lot lower back then because people had a very mixed feeling about it. And that's largely because this film should have been geared towards an older crowd. This is not a kid's film by any stretch of the meaning. If you watch this film with your kid, depending on the age, probably 3, 4, 5, they're going to be scared of this movie. There's going to be images of this film. I saw this in 1989. I think I was 13 when I saw this film in 1989, and I was scared to death with this film. I was scared of this movie. The scenery that they show, the images, and like I said, when you don't pay attention to it, you tend to do slip off. But when you see it as an older film, you realize this film was more geared for adults than it was for children. I mean, I give it respect for not treating the kids like they're stupid or they're not aware of life and death, which this film really did tackle that. But it really, really should never have been a G-rated movie. I understand that most animation back then in the 80s and early 90s was an automatic G, but I think that this film should have been PG, at least a PG. This film could have been PG. If I had my way, it would have been PG-13, but this film should have at least been a PG, because this film definitely, it was not a kid-friendly film, not in a way that that I expected. Now, granted, Disney is just as guilty as making films dark, but this film went beyond that. It tested the limit of being dark. Again, this film, I will say, once I gotten older and once I saw this film again and again, I have grown to appreciate this film. I enjoy and appreciate what Don Bluth have accomplished. This was a work of art. This film was nominated for a Golden Globe, and rightfully so. It was a very good achievement. This is pretty much, in my opinion, his last great film before the 90s, where most of his films has been mediocre to bad. Although I do believe Tiny gets a bad rap, that's just my opinion. But I felt that All Dogs was a crowning achievement he's done. I think there's no denying that he, at the 80s, he was the man. He was the only true guy that stood toe to toe with Disney. This film didn't do too well in the box office, but it did well enough to warrant a sequel. I will touch on that later on down the road, because this film didn't came out exactly at Christmas, but this film did. I remember seeing it in Christmas. As a Christmas film, I wouldn't recommend you make it as a Christmas movie. I think you can make it as any kind of movie. Sit down, but I will say this: sit down with your kids and make it for older children. Don't make this for a kid age 5 and under. This is for a film that's for ages like probably 7, 8. And have a conversation, because this is very religious oriented. I'm not going to even stress that. This definitely has a lot of religious undertone, and this is something that you just can't just put on your DVD and then just walk away. You need to have a talk with your kid about this and what they felt about it, because I guarantee you this. When this film came out, I did ask a lot of questions, and the reason being is I never felt this was meant for me, and that's how I felt. So what's my rating on this film now? I will say I'm gonna give it a 3.5, because like I said, when I saw it, I had a wrong impression, and it gave me to make it a rating because I felt wrong about it. But once I really dived into this movie, once I really started seeing it and knowing more than what I got, I grown to appreciate this film. That's why you have a flashback, because the flashback review is for me. I seen the film when I was young, and every film is good when you're young. You don't care. Every film is great. You don't worry about the story. You don't worry about the plot. But when you get older and start to realize certain elements of the thing, you really realize that this film was really stupid. I didn't really much. It doesn't hold value. Or the film, even though you hate it because everybody told you what this film was supposed to be and it wasn't, when you start seeing it for your own self and start seeing again what this film was really all about, you begin to appreciate something like more. So I give it 3.5 because it was, for the most part, at that time, a very, very good movie, and it's probably one of Don Bluth's best, or even that last film that everybody will remember as. So that's it for that. Other than make sure that if you're going to watch it with your kids, you watch it with your kids and be prepared to answer a lot of questions, because this film is very eerie, it's very scary, and it's going to definitely leave a mark on you guys. So until then, your opinion on the film, Again, I apologize for not talking about the tragic that followed before that film, but like I said, I felt that that Mars Girl has explained it best, and I think that it's better that you hear it from her. Needed to say it was a tragedy, needed to say it was a horrible incident, and it goes to show when people don't do nothing, even though abuse and neglect is staring them in the face, the result is always tragic. But I think Mars Girl is better suited to tell that, and her review of All Those Go to Heaven is wonderful. Check it out, www.com, thatguywiththeglasses.com, and see how she view it. It's always good to hear it from a different perspective, and I believe that being a big time fan of Don Blues can also explain it more, if not 10 times better than I can. So in any case, you guys take care. I'll talk to you later.